You think you can just stand there and question me?
I asked why I'm being stopped. That's my right.
You're right. Don't start that with me.
Then explain it. Simple.
You're being uncooperative.
No, I'm being
You
clear.
fit the description. That's enough.
Of what?
Don't play dumb.
I'm not playing anything.
Mom,
Step aside.
what's happening?
Now.
Because I said so.
That's not how this works. You people always...
The officer's hand closed around her throat so fast that nobody nearby understood what they were seeing until it was already happening. 1 second, she was standing in line at the airport security checkpoint, shoes off, passport in hand, mind calm. The next second, her back hit the cold glass wall, her breath cut short, and a thick forearm pressed against her neck. His fingers dug in hard, not enough to kill her, but enough to remind her who he thought had power. People froze. Phones slipped from hands. A child screamed. The officer leaned in close and hissed something ugly under his breath, something that carried years of hate packed into a few sharp words. Before I continue, tell me where you're watching from. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. It truly helps this channel grow, and it lets me keep bringing you stories like this. Thank you. Now, let's continue. Her name badge said nothing important. Just a regular traveler. A dark jacket, plain shoes, hair pulled back tight. No jewelry. Nothing that screamed danger. That was the mistake. The officer assumed she was just another black woman who wouldn't fight back, wouldn't speak up, wouldn't be believed. He assumed wrong. The airport was busy, loud, and tense, like most big airports. Flights delayed, tempers short, security lines long. The officer had already snapped at 2 people before her. One elderly man. One young woman with a crying baby. When it was her turn, he stared at her passport longer than needed. His eyes narrowed. He asked a question that didn't make sense. She answered calmly. He asked it again, louder this time. Still calm, still steady. That calm angered him. He told her to step aside. She asked why. That single word flipped a switch in him. He called her uncooperative. He said she was making it difficult. His voice rose so others could hear. The word suspicious slipped out of his mouth, heavy and loaded. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't resist. She simply said she knew her rights. That's when he grabbed her. His hand around her throat was not protocol. It was not training. It was personal. It was hate mixed with authority. The kind that believes a uniform makes cruelty legal. His face was red. His breath smelled of coffee and anger. He pressed harder, just enough to scare her. "Don't test me," he growled. Her feet stayed planted. Her hands stayed down. Inside her head, a clock started ticking. Not fear. Calculation. People shouted. Someone yelled for a supervisor. Another officer moved closer but hesitated. No one wanted to challenge him. He had senior stripes on his sleeve. He had a reputation. Everyone knew it. Complaints that went nowhere. Videos that disappeared. Apologies never issued. She locked eyes with him. Her pulse stayed even. "You have 5 seconds," she said quietly. That made him laugh. A short, cruel laugh. He leaned in closer. "Or what?" he said. "You gonna cry? You gonna play victim?" Those words were soaked in racial weight. They were not new words. She had heard them before. In other places. Other countries. Other operations. Different faces. Same hate. Behind the scenes, systems were already waking up. A small black device clipped inside her jacket vibrated once. Silent. Invisible. A signal had been sent. Her location. Live audio. Video feed. Federal clearance codes unlocking one by one. The officer didn't know any of that. He only saw a black woman refusing to break. She felt the pressure on her throat increase for a second, then stop. Not because he chose to, because someone shouted his name from behind. A supervisor pushing through the crowd, face pale, eyes darting between the officer's hand and the woman's neck. "What are you doing?" the supervisor demanded. The officer stepped back fast, like a child caught stealing. His face shifted. Fake calm. Fake control. He said she had lunged. He said she had threatened him. He said she was non-compliant. She rubbed her throat slowly. Red marks were already showing. Cameras everywhere had seen everything. "I want medical," she said. "And I want this incident logged." The supervisor nodded too quickly. He looked nervous now. Something about the way she spoke didn't fit the story they were used to. No shaking voice. No panic, just quiet authority. Another officer whispered something into the supervisor's ear while glancing at her again. The supervisor swallowed. "Ma'am," he said, "we'll escort you to a private area." She nodded once. As they walked, the officer who grabbed her watched from behind the barrier. His jaw was tight. His eyes followed her like a predator who realized too late that the prey might be armed. Inside the private room, the door closed. A medic checked her neck. The marks were photographed, time-stamped, logged. She reached into her jacket and pulled out a thin black card. No name, no photo, just a symbol and a clearance number. The supervisor stared at it. His hands started to shake. "I need you to call your director," she said calmly. "Now." "What is this?" he whispered. She met his eyes. "You just watched one of your officers assault a federal operative on active assignment." The room went silent. Outside, the airport kept moving. Flights boarding. Announcements echoing. People unaware that everything was about to change. And the officer who thought he could get away with it had no idea how badly he had messed up. The supervisor's phone slipped in his hand the moment he stepped out of the room. He tried to hide it, but fear makes people clumsy. He walked fast down the hallway, away from cameras, away from ears, whispering into the phone like the walls could hear him. Inside the room, she sat still, shoulders relaxed, eyes half closed. To anyone else, she looked like a traveler recovering from a bad encounter. In truth, she was listening to everything through the device sewn into her collar. The first response team was already moving. Not local. Not airport security. Federal. She had boarded that airport knowing the risk. Airports were pressure cookers. Power, fear, bias, all packed into tight spaces. She had seen officers snap before. She had been trained for it. What she was not trained for was mercy from men who saw her skin before her humanity. The officer who grabbed her was being questioned now. His voice was loud, defensive. He kept repeating the same words like a shield. She resisted. "She threatened me. I feared for my safety." Each sentence sounded practiced. Each one hollow. Video footage was already pulled. Not edited. Not delayed. Raw. The footage showed his hand closing around her throat. Clear. Close. No resistance. No threat. Just force. Back in the room, she received a silent confirmation. One vibration. Then two. The chain of command had been notified. The incident had crossed from local abuse to federal offense. Her throat burned, but her mind was sharp. She thought about how many times this had happened to others who did not have a device, a clearance card, or a safety net. How many people left airports humiliated, bruised, or worse, with no one listening? That thought hardened something in her chest. The door opened again. The supervisor returned, sweat lining his forehead. His tone had changed. Gone was the authority. In its place was fear dressed as politeness. "Ma'am," he said, too softly, "there's been a misunderstanding." She didn't answer. He cleared his throat. "We're going to resolve this properly." Still nothing. Another knock. This time, the door opened wide. 3 people walked in. No uniforms. No badges on display. Calm faces. Focused eyes. The kind of people who never raise their voices because they don't need to. The room shifted. The supervisor stepped back like he knew he was no longer in charge. One of them nodded at her. "We'll take it from here." She stood slowly. Her neck still showed the marks. Red, angry, undeniable. Outside, the officer was still talking, still pointing, still acting like the victim. When he saw her walk out flanked by strangers, his confidence cracked for the first time. "Hey," he barked, "where are you taking her?" No one answered him. The lead agent stopped in front of him, looked him up and down, calm, cold. "You're done," he said. The officer laughed, short and sharp. "You don't get tow." He didn't finish the sentence. The agent leaned in just enough for him to hear. "You assaulted a protected federal operative on camera. Your career ended the moment your hand touched her throat." The color drained from the officer's face. Handcuffs came out. Not rushed. Not dramatic. Firm. Final. Passengers stared. Phones were raised again, but this time nobody told them to stop recording. This time, the cameras were welcome. As he was led away, the officer shouted. Anger turned to panic. Panic turned to hate. "She's lying," he yelled. "You believe her because of what she is." One of the agents stopped walking, turned slowly. "No," he said. "We believe her because we saw what you did." The officer said one last thing. Something ugly. Something racial. Something meant to wound. She stopped walking. The room went quiet. She turned and looked at him. Really looked. Not with anger. With clarity. "You grabbed my throat because you thought no one would stop you," she said evenly. "That's the problem. Not me." No one spoke after that. He was taken away. Inside a secured room deeper in the airport, the agents debriefed her quickly. Efficient. No wasted words. She confirmed her identity. Her assignment. Her clearance. One agent asked if she wanted to press charges. "Yes," she said. No hesitation. Another asked if she wanted this handled quietly. "No," she replied. "I want it seen." They nodded. They understood. Within the hour, notifications began hitting internal systems. Oversight boards, internal affairs, civil rights divisions. The incident was flagged high priority. No burying, no delays. News outlets caught wind of it faster than expected. Someone leaked the video. The clip spread like fire. A uniformed officer's hand around a black woman's throat. Her calm face. His rage. The headline wrote itself. Inside a holding room, the officer sat alone now. No badge. No authority. Just a man facing consequences he never thought would come. He stared at his hands. Meanwhile, she was escorted through a private exit. Not because she needed protection, because the building needed distance from what it had just allowed. As she stepped into the waiting vehicle, her device vibrated again. New orders were coming. This incident was no longer just about her. It was about exposure. And what came next would shake more than one department. The vehicle pulled away from the airport slowly, blending into traffic like it had never been there. From the outside, it looked ordinary. Inside, it was quiet, controlled, and sealed. She sat in the back seat, staring out the window, watching planes lift into the sky like nothing had happened. Her throat still hurt. The marks were darker now. Proof had a way of ripening with time. Across from her, one of the agents reviewed a tablet. Video stills, audio clips, timestamps. The officer's face frozen in mid-anger, his hand clear on her neck. "This is worse than we thought," the agent said. She nodded. It usually is. They weren't just looking at one officer anymore. They were looking at patterns, complaints tied to his name, stops that escalated fast, reports written to justify force, all of it backed by the same language. Non-compliant, aggressive, threatening. Words often used when the truth was uglier. Her incident cracked the door open. Inside the system, people were scrambling, calls being made, files being locked. Some tried to get ahead of it. Others tried to hide. Too late. She had been sent to that airport for a reason. Not to be grabbed. Not to be humiliated. But to quietly observe security operations tied to a larger investigation. Smuggling routes. Corruption. Missing evidence. The assault blew her cover, but it also accelerated everything. Sometimes exposure worked faster than silence. A secure building outside the city became her temporary base. No signs. No name on the door, just clearance and quiet. Medical staff documented her injuries again. Photos. Measurements. Statements. She spoke clearly, fact by fact. No emotion added. The truth didn't need help. In another room, investigators questioned airport staff. One by one. Some told the truth. Some lied. Some broke down. Fear has a way of loosening tongues when authority shifts. The officer's past followed him into the light. Old body camera footage resurfaced. Not enough on its own back then. Enough now. A pattern of targeting. A pattern of escalation. A pattern of racial bias masked as procedure. Public pressure exploded. Protests formed outside the airport by evening. Signs. Chants. Anger sharpened by familiarity. People had seen this before. Too many times. This time, the difference was the woman survived and the footage stayed public. Inside his holding cell, the officer watched the news on a small screen. His name blurred. His face not. Commentators didn't defend him. Former colleagues stayed silent. The union issued a weak statement. Nobody called him a hero. He realized something then. This wasn't going away. Back at the secure building, she received updated orders. The investigation she had been assigned to was expanding. The assault revealed something deeper. Corrupt cooperation between airport security and external actors. Money moving. Evidence disappearing. The officer was not the root. He was a symptom. She volunteered to stay on. Your cover is compromised, one agent warned. I know, she said. But they don't know what I know. The room went quiet, then nods. They restructured the plan. New identities. New access points. Her role shifted from observer to pressure point. The system was already unstable. One more push would make it collapse. Days passed fast. Hearings were scheduled. The officer was formally charged. Assault. Abuse of authority. Civil rights violations. Each charge stacked heavier than the last. During one hearing, he finally spoke directly. She provoked me, he said. She thought she was better than the rules. The room reacted. Murmurs. Disbelief. She watched from a secure feed. Her face didn't change. She was calm. One witness testified. He wasn't. That sentence echoed everywhere. Meanwhile, investigators traced financial links connected to airport security supervisors. Bribes, favor exchanges, quiet deals. The same people who tried to downplay her assault were now being exposed for worse. The story grew bigger than race alone. It became about power. About systems that protect abusers until the wrong person gets hurt. She moved carefully now. New routes, new timing, but the weight of the public eye worked in her favor. People were watching. too closely for quiet disappearances. One night, as she reviewed files, her device vibrated urgently. A red alert. A leak inside the department. Someone knew she was still active. Someone wanted her gone. The message was short. Stand down or you'll regret it. She exhaled slowly. This wasn't just about justice anymore. This was about survival. The warning stayed on her screen longer than it needed to. Short, direct, confident. Whoever sent it believed they were untouchable. That belief came from years of getting away with things. Years of silence. Years of people looking the other way. She deleted the message and leaned back in her chair. Standing down was never an option. By morning, the operation shifted into its final phase. The investigation had grown too large to contain quietly. Federal oversight teams moved in fast, seizing records from airport offices, freezing accounts, and locking down digital systems. Supervisors who once barked orders were now being escorted out with their heads down. The public only saw part of it. News clips, short updates, angry debates. What they didn't see was how deep the rot went. She was placed under protection, but she refused to hide. If I disappear, they control the story, she said. I won't give them that. A press conference was scheduled. Not flashy. No speeches, just facts, video evidence, charges, names, accountability. The officer who grabbed her throat watched from a detention facility. The footage played again on the screen. His hand, her neck. His voice filled with rage and entitlement. For the first time, he didn't look angry. He looked afraid. At the press conference, a reporter asked the question many were thinking. Why did this case move so fast when others don't? The answer was simple. Because the evidence was undeniable, the official said, and because no one is above the law. She stood off to the side, partially in frame. The marks on her neck had faded, but the memory had not. Another reporter shouted, "Do you think race played a role?" The room went still. She stepped forward. "Yes," she said. One word. No shaking. No apology. It always does when power meets prejudice. No more was needed. Behind the scenes, arrests continued. A supervisor tried to resign. It didn't work. Another attempted to destroy files. Too late. Digital backups had already been secured. The system that protected them was now exposing them. The officer's trial came quickly. The courtroom was full. Activists, media, families who had their own stories. He avoided looking at her. When the verdict was read, there was no celebration. Just relief. Guilty. Sentencing followed. Prison time. Loss of pension. Loss of badge. Loss of the power he abused. Outside the courthouse, someone shouted his name. He flinched. She watched from a distance as he was taken away. Not with joy, with finality. The larger case closed weeks later. Several officials charged. Policies rewritten. Oversight installed. Promises made. She knew better than to believe promises alone changed systems. But pressure did. Exposure did. Consequences did. Her assignment ended quietly. No awards. No public recognition. Just a short message from her director. Good work. Take time. She boarded another flight weeks later. Different airport. Different city. Same calm posture. Same awareness. The world hadn't changed completely, but something had shifted. As she walked through security, an officer nodded at her politely. Professional. Careful. She nodded back. Not because she needed their respect, but because this time they knew the rules applied to everyone. And some lines, once crossed, can never be erased again.